Welcome to the Damn Short Filmmakers, Damn Short Film Fest. Let's start over. Cut. Welcome to the Damn Short Film Festival's Filmmaker panel. My name is John Labonte. I'm the festival director, and I will serve as your panel moderator, willingly or unwillingly. The Filmmaker panel has become a tradition here at the Damn Short Film Festival. I went through it, as well as many others over the years. We have a Q&A session at the end of every program block, but the Filmmaker panel gives us a chance to talk a little bit more in depth about who's making short films and why we're making them and how we're making them. It's usually held in an auxiliary location. Last year it was mobbed, given that and the amount of filmmakers that wanted to participate this year, we decided to bring it into the theater to bring it to this massive audience. And we're glad we did. So it should be interesting, and it's always been a point of interest at the festival. So today's panel is made up of 6 attending filmmakers from this season. No one has seen any of the questions aside from myself. And I'll begin our session with a series of questions, and we'll turn it over to the audience. It's an interactive panel, and hear what your questions are. So, Alex, why don't you start? Tell us your name and the name of your film, and we'll just go right down the line and introduce everybody that way. There we go.
Hi, my name is Alex Italics, and my film is called Blackout Roulette.
Hi, my name is Caleb Temple, and my film is Welcome Home.
Hi, I'm Zoe Robin. I'm the director of Bolt Cutters in Paris.
I'm William Stribling, and I directed and wrote Beyond Belief.
My name is Mike Celestino. I co-directed, edited, and produced The Last Days of Cinerama.
Hi, I'm Don Cummings, and I wrote and produced Box.
All right, great. Thanks for being with us here today. Let's just jump right in, and since you've got the mic, why don't you tell me what was the biggest mistake you made in making your film? The biggest mistake you made. We talk about a lot of the good things that we do here, and a lot of compliments fly around at the festival. But
I think I would say, because we made it on the fly, we didn't have a lot of time to plan it. We made it in 6 days. We wrote it overnight, one night. I would say that the biggest mistake I made as a director is not spending a lot of time with my actress, Carly Famlant, who's here today. She did a fantastic job, but if I could go back and do something differently, I would probably have spent more time one-on-one going through lines. We found on set that we actually ended up doing a lot of improv because I wrote so much dialogue and gave her almost 0 time to prepare her scenes, which actually gave it a little bit of je ne sais quoi, but I would have spent a lot more time with her if I could have.
Good. What about you, William? What was the biggest mistake you think you made?
Looking back, I think the shoot went really well, but there was a moment when I really should have used a compass in my location scout, and I will explain that. We were shooting in a bar for an overnight, so we needed, nighttime outside the giant window behind the actors at the bar, and we didn't realize that that window was facing east. So we had about an hour and a half less darkness than we thought we were going to. So we kind of got to the climax of the film and realized that it was now daytime inside the bar, and we were like very borderline screwed. And so you'll notice, a lot of you may have seen the film on Wednesday night, and if you haven't, it's down in the Filmmaker dungeon, or I can hook you up with a DVD. But there's a moment,
Filmmaker
right?
Dungeon?
That's what we've been calling it, behind
You're
your back.
Kidding.
Yeah. But anyway, so we covered it by punching into like extreme tight shots of the 2 actors' eyes when you see like confetti and everything falling in front of them to make up for the fact that we could no longer shoot any wides. So I think going back, always use a compass when the sun is a factor.
Use a compass. All right, good. Mike, what about you?
We shot a few of the interviews in our movie in my apartment, which was a huge mistake because the sound in my neighborhood is the worst. So my partner Robert really worked really hard in fixing a lot of that, but it took a long time, and we really regretted that. We'll probably won't make that mistake again.
So how did you resolve that? You had another location later, and
We shot in. There were a few interviews that were shot in other great, wonderful locations where the sound came out great. But the ones that we did in my apartment, the sound was all bouncy and echoey, and we couldn't hear what people were saying. And Rob just digitally, magically fixed all that, and it sounds really great.
Don, have finding locations for your films has that been a problem? It's always been a problem for me to get somebody to allow me to shoot on their property, short film and that kind of thing. Has that been difficult?
Yeah. I mean, I used friends, and I had difficulty with all three of my locations because one was basically in someone's nice kitchen, one was in someone's T-shirt factory, which he turned into a box factory, and one was up at a very old Dutch farmhouse. And each one of those was a problem because the husband of the house, of the first one, he's a very rigid guy and didn't want his life disturbed, and so we had to bribe him basically because his wife was really gung-ho, but he kept trying to move the date, and so that was hard. And we did, their house got trashed. I mean, we fixed it afterwards, but it got trashed. And then the farmhouse location at the end, that house was for sale, so we had a lot of problems with. I couldn't let anyone in it. And also one of the owners, it was a divorce. So they were selling the house because there was a divorce going on, and the person, in a divorce you get one of them usually. So the one I was dealing with is an old friend, and he was fine, but the partner, it was really a problem. So I was kind of in the middle of a divorce while trying to grab their house while it was up for sale and trying to get it on, hoping that they did not sell the house before we shot the movie. So that was, and then lastly the box factory was. I had an art department that looked at this T-shirt factory and I turned it into a box factory, and they all got really tired before they even started, and I had to crack a whip.
So it wasn't easy. Caleb, have you had similar experiences with finding locations and getting locations, or has it been easy for you?
Normally it's really good. Most people in Reno, especially if it's a like government building or corporate, it's harder, but there's so many local bars or companies and they're really generous. This one, we bought a house so I could shoot a short film. So, well,
you bought a house so you could shoot a short film.
So
maybe you
budget,
went a little over budget.
Yeah, a little over for a 3-minute silent single shot.
For a 3-minute short, buying a house. That's dedication to the art form. Okay. Alex, what was your biggest challenge in shooting your film?
Well, as far as locations go, I mean, when you have the budget of an undergraduate student film, people just, go crazy for that kind of money. No, but in regards to the biggest...
Unless you're independently wealthy like Caleb and buy homes per film that you
why stop at one, You need like holding for the cast, so buy 2 houses. Anyway, I'd say the biggest mistake that I made was probably set safety. For those unfamiliar, the basic elevator pitch of my film is that it's about a guy who's throwing a party. There's a blackout. To keep his hosts entertained, he invents this game called Blackout Roulette, where they all sit in the bathtub with the toaster plugged in there and see if they can make it 5 minutes before the power comes back on. So the cast was nearly electrocuted while we were shooting, but not because of the toaster. There was a stinger, and there was a stinger running near the bathtub, and they were all getting in and out. But I mean, when you're on a student film set, I mean, every person in the crew is doing 5 roles. They're like, oh, this is my AD/crafty/acting in the next scene. So there was nobody paying attention to that, and it came pretty close, I think, to catastrophe.
Okay, so Zoe's biggest mistake was not really preparing, and Alex's biggest mistake was sets safety, and Will's biggest mistake was the dungeon. Is that right? I got a dungeon for you, buddy. Yeah. So Alex, it's interesting that you mentioned elevator pitch. Does everybody know what an elevator pitch is? Can you explain what an elevator pitch is? I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, an industry term. That's if you get that meeting with the executive, but he's on his way to another meeting, and you have to describe your movie on the elevator ride down from his office. It's usually like 11 seconds or less. If you can convey the concept of your movie in a sellable way in that short period of time is usually pretty crucial to holding people's attention, especially people's attention that have money. So.
That's right. At MIT, every year they have an elevator pitch contest. You get 60 seconds to pitch your idea to a venture capitalist, and the winner gets the actual money they're asking for. So if you got on an elevator and found out that the guy next to you was a Hollywood producer and you had the length of the ride, 60 seconds, and he said, I saw your last short at Damn Short Film Festival, and I'd really be interested in your next idea. What is it? What would you tell him in 60 seconds?
Well, I'm working on another short now. It's about a father in the American 1950s, Norman Rockwell suburbia, and he discovers that his teenage daughter has been making out with her no-good-nick boyfriend in the family's fallout shelter. So, wait for it, he goes nuclear. Thanks.
That's no good, Nick? Okay. Caleb, what would you say if you were in that elevator?
Hi.
That's good. All right. Yeah, that's a good start. Yeah. Okay, Caleb, what's your next idea? I want to hear it.
I have a couple short scripts, but my goal is to start working on a feature-length script, but I don't have the idea yet. It'll probably have something to do with suicide or really solid drama. I covered divorce in this short, so maybe a divorce, suicide. I don't know. We'll see.
Will you buy a warehouse for that one? I wonder.
If there's a good one in Reno.
Right, I've taken that
They're
joke far
selective.
enough.
So.
What about you, Zoe? Do you have your next idea in your head, in your back pocket, ready to go?
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm working on an independent feature, a micro-budget feature. It's a black comedy about four ordinary girls who are just about to graduate from college in New York, like HBO's Girls, if you've seen that show. But the way that they've all put themselves through college is by being assassins. And now they've graduated, and they're all trying to figure out how to operate in the real world, job interviews, relationships, et cetera, et cetera.
I love it. So that's a great idea. So they have to transition from being criminals into normal college graduates and suffer.
Yeah, and it's not easy.
Oh, that's fabulous. I like that idea. Do you have personal experience in that?
No, that was the hardest part. The research
Don't disclose
is
any more than that. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your idea, William.
All right, well,
is it about torture or dungeons or?
Unfortunately,
No. Oh, okay. Tell us your idea.
But R.J. Lewis, who's the magician and star of Beyond Belief, he and I just finished a script which is like a kind of dark comedy about a children's TV star who reconnects with his long lost daughter after he finds out his show's being canceled after 25 years.
Terrific. Go ahead, Mike.
We just started shooting our next documentary, which was an idea that had been gestating in my head for a while about controversial topics in comedy, specifically stand-up comedy.
Cool. Don, I'd like to change the subject, and
Sure.
We're all here at a film festival, and so we all have some knowledge of the process of getting your film selected at a film festival, and you've all been successful at it, obviously. What were some of the challenges you faced or some of the frustrations you faced when trying to present your film on the festival circuit and get it accepted into different festivals?
Well, my biggest challenge is that my short is, if you have to choose between drama and comedy, it's hard to pick. So that was, the good news is a lot of you can just put, narrative short, and that's cool. But that was my biggest problem. The other thing is, there are, how many film festivals are there? I mean, there's just so many. And so the problem, really the hard time is the amount of time you have to spend deciding where you're going to spend your anywhere between $25 and $50, fee. That's if you get the early bird, And then also, it's a compilation thing. There's different sites, Without a Box, Realport, these Short Film Depot, all these, and just like keeping it all organized. It's actually such a bigger deal than I thought it would be.
William, do you have a story about someplace you tried to get your film into, or? Great. I can't wait to hear it.
I just think our short film is on the longer end of short films. We're like just under 19 minutes, so it does make it harder to get it programmed because, I mean, you can show 2 or 3 shorter films that could be just as awesome. So, I mean, it does make it more difficult to get in festivals, but, you know, there's a great appreciation from us to the festivals when they actually, you know, take the chance to screen us. So, you know, so thank you.
You're welcome. Alex, if 90% of directing is casting, what's the other 10%?
In my experience, I consider it trying to find the most like talented people I can, basically, you know, as far as the other crew positions. It is the directing in general is a lot of finding really talented people, you know, with independent short film production.
So it's surrounding yourself with people, good people who are maybe better at these individual jobs than you could be.
Right.
Right.
Making yourself the weakest link. That's the idea, I guess, you know.
Okay. Do you agree with that, Caleb? Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you want to work with the best people you can for the situation. But I personally think the 10% is 90% get the cast, 10% feed the cast, and then you're set.
That's a good point. Feeding people who work on your film, especially for free, is a big part of making a short film work. So just really quickly, let's go down the line, start with Alex, and tell me how much money you spent on food for your film, if you can remember.
You know, we just did a 2-day production, so it wasn't that bad. I think I spent maybe like $150.
Okay, 150.
About $5.
He spent all his money on the real estate.
Yeah, we had like 3 meals, so it was low. But we fed people well. That's the thing. It's like
in Paris, you fed people well when it was cheap.
Wow. We you know, that's the most important thing. I completely agree with that. Food is so important.
William,
I think because meals and crafty together probably like $1,200.
Okay.
It was a big casting crew.
Sure.
And they're so hungry.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable, actually, the first reasonable, you know. I want to work on Caleb's set where it's Pop-Tarts once for 5 days, but okay, go ahead.
I don't think we spent more than probably $10 on some bottles of water for our interview subjects, but yeah.
Well, you had to feed yourselves, right?
Sure.
Were there any other crew?
But I do that anyway.
Well, you eat anyway. That's a good point, yeah. That's fair enough, fair enough. So you brought box lunch, okay, peanut butter and jelly. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I 3 days, and they were like 16-hour days. I spent $1,800
on food.
On food and snacks. Yeah.
Okay, so varies widely, but I think it is important to feed the people working on your film. At this point, I think we turn it over to the audience. I've gone as far as I can go. So, who has a question for a member of our panel?
Thank you. I actually have 2. First of all, do you all have chairs like that when you film to be the director?
Okay.
Okay. Seriously, how do you go about getting the music you put in your films, and what do you have to do to get proper clearances?
That's a great question. So first of all, just by show of hands, who's got one of these chairs at home or uses on their set? Wow. You have one?
On the set we use them, yeah.
Oh, so you rent?
Yeah, we rent.
With an option to buy. Okay, so do we. We rent. Okay, and that's a great question about the music. A lot of filmmakers don't understand, or the ones who are starting out, that you can't just put Aerosmith in your movie and for nothing. So, what are the big challenges you've had with music or music clearances, Alex?
Well, for Blackout Roulette, you know, I basically hired a composer who did work for hire, so it becomes the property, like one joint property with the film and my property. But I've been working on projects in the last year or so that do have to do a lot of music clearance, and it can be expensive. It all depends. You know, they all have to be cleared for public exhibition, you know, in a festival, and usually publishers will offer a festival exhibition license for their work, which is usually a lot cheaper than if you wanted to, you know, release it in theaters nationwide or put it on DVD. But usually that can be a real budget eater if you try to put a lot of pop music in your films.
Kayla, what did you do about the music in your film?
Mine was free. The person, Clint Sleeper, who wrote it, him and my DP, John Schoen, are a good portion of the reason why we made it. John had just moved back into town. They're like, Caleb, you haven't done anything since your baby was born. Like, a year's passed, like, let's do something. So I had the music come kind of ask me to make it. So
So is music looking for a film in your case?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Rather than a film looking
yeah.
at film. That's interesting.
Yeah, so.
Zoe?
The challenge of music, I think I know a lot of talented composers and that I went to school with, and music, like you said, it's not actually that hard to get festival rights for popular songs. But I always found the hardest thing about music is describing to the composer what you want the scene to feel like. Like, you find yourself at a loss for like descriptive words for music, and most of the time I just, you describe what you want the audience to feel in really like basic terms. Like, I want this to be scary, or I want this guy to seem really skeevy, or like, and then you just let them do it, and it's like magic. They just create magic out of nothing, and it changes the movie completely, and it could in a good way or a bad way. So that's the tough part.
Do we have another question out there? Here he goes.
Many people in the world would like to do a film or documentary one day, but it never comes to fruition. Was there a point way back when the thought came to you and you said, this is going to happen no matter what? And how did that come to be?
That's a great question. Was there ever a moment when was there times where you doubted that you'd ever make a film, and then one day you said, I'm doing it regardless? Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up wanting to make movies, and we made a bunch of little stuff in college, and then I kind of fell away from it for a while. And then I had some health problems, actually, which kind of spurred me to just get off my ass and make something. And I think it was, having a partner who wanted to do the same thing that I did, who I had known for a while and was as excited about the idea as I was, that's all it really took to get it going, I think.
So one day you realized life was finite, and you didn't want to finish it without making a movie.
Sure.
Is that it? What about you, Will? Was there a time where you weren't sure you were ever going to make a movie?
Well, I kind of, yeah, because I did that as my senior thesis at NYU, but I wrote a movie for a specific magician who ended up not being able to do the movie. So there was that oh shit moment of scrambling to find someone who could fill his shoes, and it didn't work out very well at all. We found a lot of the hard thing was finding a magician who could act, and we found a lot of actors who claimed to be able to do magic, and they were lying. They were really lying. But then, I mean, was I going to drop the class? I was going to drop the class and either not make a film or write something new and just the last minute. And then, like magic, on Actors Access, this headshot and resume came across our desk of this, Broadway veteran who, was a professional magician, and he looked the part and he came in and read for us. And I mean, it was the stars aligned for us definitely in that way. But there was that moment of it might not happen.
Great question.
I teach film and media classes, and I have a number of students who are aspiring to be filmmakers in some capacity or another, whether that be directing independent films, or working in some role in the industry. I'm wondering, as you guys, and I'm not sure where each of you are, quite in your careers, but I'm wondering what, if you might even just say a word about that, and what kind of advice you'd give to somebody who's, a sophomore or junior in a film program who has these aspirations. What message would you convey based on your experience?
Oh, great question. So, where are you right now, briefly? And if someone who's a sophomore or junior in college studying film came to you and said, "What should I do?" What would you tell them, Caleb?
In terms of where I am in my career, I don't see it as a career right now. I'm kind of at this stage just a hobbyist and a big movie lover. I would love to turn it into a career, but that being said, I've also worked on about 60 films, a couple features and some shorts, and this is my 4th short. So I've got experience in it, but it's not my day job by any means. But so my recommendation is, or at least what I found works great for me. I didn't go to film school, but I just make every set that I get to go on as a new experience. I've done at least once every position you can be on a film. For the films that I've never blown up something because I haven't been on those kinds of movies yet, but just especially if you're starting out, just take what you can and take what you learn from each one, and meet people on the set and find out what they're doing too, and just if you're going to film school, that's what you're there for anyways, and so you're going to be doing that. But if you're not going to film school, just make any project you can be your film school.
So get on any project, work all the jobs you can, try everything, and meet everybody that you can.
Yeah, any project that has food.
Any project that has more than a $5 budget for food and a $2 million budget for real estate. Okay. So do you agree? Do you think there's what would you say to somebody who was 18 or 20 and came up to you and said, "I want to get started in film. What should I do?"
Well, I can only speak from my experience. I went to film school, and someone once said to me that film school or art school is good because it gets you up in the morning to do art until you can get yourself up in the morning to continue doing art. So I thought that was awesome because that's what we did at NYU. We started small, so little projects, learning how to frame things with cameras, and then learning how to use 16 millimeter black and white splicing with our hands, so that we learn the value of editing and the time to shoot film. And then you work your way up to making fully fledged shorts. So I would say to someone who is 18, start small too, because the worst thing is having a huge idea and just not having the skills yet to make it the way you want it to. If you have a big idea, leave it. Learn the little basics, and get on sets and learn about cameras. You need to know about cameras, and then go out and make your movie.
Okay. So I went to film school as well with Zoe, who graduated from NYU last year. I'm getting my master's now in screenwriting at Chapman. I directed a SAG ultra low budget feature last summer called Lies I Told My Little Sister that we're in post with right now, dealing with music rights and stuff. But if someone came up to me and asked from a director's standpoint or a writer, I would say start trying to work with real actors as early as possible. Because it's one thing to use your roommate, but it's another thing to go out and see a play and then stand outside the stage door and say, hey, I've got a script I'm working on, and if you're passionate about it, you'd be surprised the kind of talent you're going to be able to work with. And I think that's invaluable. I mean, film school's great, but you kind of got to go out there and start doing it by yourself. Otherwise,
William, do you think if you work with a strong actor, don't you think that's easier than working with an amateur? Don't you think that's much simpler for the director?
It's not necessarily easier, but it's definitely a different working process because you're going to be. You deal with them in a different way. You don't have to. With an amateur, you're either going to be trying to cheat it, or you're going to be trying to teach them how to act. And with a professional, you really get to dig into the material and work with nothing but the beats of the scene and the themes and the emotions that are going on.
Cool. We have another question. Oh, I love it. There he is.
Is any of your films based on something that you experienced or you know about or you want to express or something you believe in?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think what he's asking is, what's your inspiration for your film? Is that about the size of it? Yeah. That's not a question that I often ask, but I'm certainly willing to pose it to our panel because there's so many different reasons, so many different stories, and so many different experiences that everything that happens every day can become a film. It's exciting. But let's try it out. Yeah, sure.
Pose it to him.
Okay, Don. What is it? What is it about these boxes that got you going? I think your film is really about when people lose intimacy, what happens to them, and they turn into these automatons, if you will. So tell us briefly what was the inspiration for Box?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really is just going back one question about students too. I do think that people should write what they know about in some way. Even if you're doing genre, stick in there something emotionally that you understand. Yeah, Box was about, I wanted to I had moved from Los Angeles to New York, and I'm from New York originally, but I lived in LA for 16 years, and I was going back to New York and facing a lot of old friends and family and different things in my marriage, all sorts of stuff. But I noticed that my relationships were at different levels of intimacy that were good and problematic, and what I realized was you could have the choice of being close to someone is a difficult choice, and so I wanted to make a movie that showed very profoundly different relationships. The first relationship in my movie is completely chilly. The DP chose bluish light to show it. The second relationship is a place of transformation where people are at least trying to help each other, so they're kind. The third section of the movie is a mother and son, and usually a lot of times you see films like, parent and child are really cantankerous. And I chose to make the mother and son to be extremely loving toward each other. So I wanted to show these three different kinds of relationships, and then hopefully with that being in the world, that there is this possibility of closeness, the woman from the first scene comes around and hopefully gets that from the other people, and that's what I did.
Mike, did you want to make a documentary? Did you want to tell a story, or what inspired you to make this movie?
We were hesitant to make a documentary because we knew how much work it was going to be. But when the opportunity came up, I think it felt really close to me because I'm a film projectionist by trade, and the whole digital revolution had happened about 6 months before they started filming the movie that we documented. And it hurt me a lot because I love film, and seeing that go away, I really wanted to get my voice out there about what film meant to me. So at the same time, all the filmmakers in Hollywood were shooting on digital. These guys were going back 50 years and shooting on this way old technology, and I just thought that was like this really beautiful sentiment to get out there about, even though technology gets better and things get abandoned for better technology, there are still ways to use the older methods of making movies.
So for you, it was that love of film and watching it disappear, and these guys were bringing it back, and that was exciting to you.
Absolutely.
That's right. William, what was the inspiration? I know you have a deep history and love of magic, and that was the inspiration for your film, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I've loved magic since I was a kid. I said this at our Q&A, but like when I was really little, I got into magic, which led me to theater, which led me to film. So it's kind of like where it all started for me. So I wanted to make a little, I call it my love letter to magic, that really kind of goes back to that. And at first when I wrote the script, I thought I wrote a bunch of really great different characters. And then I looked at the film when we made it, and I was like, no, I just wrote myself in different perspectives. I'm the magician, but I'm also the guy giving him shit all the time. And I'm, so it's interesting to stand back a little bit and look at how much of that was infused into there on accident. But yeah, I agreed. Write the stuff that you know the best you can. Then it's honest.
Cool. Zoe, your film was made on a whim almost, wasn't it? Or
Yeah.
accidentally, a happy accident, like they used to say.
Yeah. We were in my family is in film. My whole family is in film, and so when I graduated, I was lucky enough to be able to go to Paris for a couple weeks because my dad was working on a show there, and I was really excited because I have assisted on a lot of films, but I'd never been able to work with my dad, so I was really excited about that. And we were just on set one day, and the writer, Tim Lee, who's here, had this great story idea for this little romantic interlude that would happen on this bridge in Paris where you put a lock with your loved one and then throw the key in the water. And so I wrote based on that idea, but then we thought it would be a great idea to have our American girl romantic lead only speak English in the interaction, and have him only speak French, because we thought the language is the same. When you're first meeting someone, you have those sparks, and they're arguing, but there's sparks, and in any language you still feel that same energy. So we thought that was cool.
That's great. Now, Zoe, your film hasn't screened yet. So we're giving away
No,
all the juice.
it's coming up in the next program.
We're going to have no Q&A with you. You talked it all out already. So.
Okay. I'll
It's
bump
going to be in the
brakes.
next program, Love and Romance. Yeah, it was my favorite block.
Thank you.
I love that block of films. Do we have any more questions? I know we have. Yes.
You guys are experts in this, and I'm a professional in the business. But this is a question I have, and this is an area of filmmaking that's completely foreign to me, even though my entire career has been spent in the business. Short films. Is the digital revolution good for the short films, or is the digital revolution bad for short films, and especially the future of short films?
Oh, that's a great question. Is the digital revolution good or bad for the genre of short films? Okay. Alex, what do you think? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it indifferent?
I mean, that all depends on how you want to look at it. As far as democratizing the industry to where many people can do it, definitely it's good for that. Is that better or worse overall for the art form? I think in some ways, yes. But I mean, film is definitely pretty dead. It gets I don't know about NYU, but it gets nothing more than pretty much like a cursory, like introductory kind of approach. Nobody at my film school shoots on film at all.
So do you think that because of all the available digital technology, and you can basically make a movie on your cell phone if you want to, go out and shoot that way, do you think that puts so much product out there that it's not worth anything anymore, or is it good because it puts it in the hands of more people who can use it?
Well, I mean, for example, the Sundance Film Festival got something like 17 or 18,000 submissions this year, which is, every year they bust the record or something, and it's only going to get more. But they still only screen, 100, 140 films or something like that. So you have all this content, and I don't know as there's really yet been a way forged to exhibit it online. I think that like film and video online is largely restricted to cat videos at the moment. But at some point, it'd be nice if there was, that was an exhibition source for short films. But I don't think the headway's been met yet. So I think places like the Damn Short Film Festival and other places like that will, for the time being, continue to thrive with all these excess submissions.
The internet, you can put your movie on the internet really easy, but yet you're all here. One of the filmmakers this season told me that his best shot of getting his film seen is at a place like this, in a film festival. And he can reach the whole world on the internet, but he can't get as many viewers that are in this room. I mean, they can all see it, but they don't. It's difficult to distribute your product that way and get people to look at it, I think. Do we have another question? I love this. This is great. There we go, over here.
What does a film festival accomplish for you? I mean, getting a submission, getting it shown, from a career standpoint, what does that accomplish? There's no money in it, right? So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Don't tell them about the money. So the question is, why come to a film festival? Why submit here? What good does it do you to do that? Does it help your career or not? Is it just for fun? Why do you do it, Alex?
Well, I mean, from the student perspective, there's not a better way of networking that I can think of than screening your work at a film festival, of meeting other filmmakers, of seeing what other kind of films are being made from a wide geographic area. Being able to screen your work, I think I don't know if I can speak for all of us, but I think that's why we kind of do what we do. For a large extent, is to be able to show the work to other people. That's kind of the point. I don't know if I was, trapped alone on a deserted island, whether I would want to make films anymore. I don't know. So, given that, especially for short films, that's pretty much how it gets done. Is to screen your work at short film festivals, or film festivals in general. That's pretty much why we do it. That's my opinion.
That sounds like a great idea for a movie. If I was stranded on a desert island, would I want to make a movie?
That's a debate that I have a lot with my friends on the broad subject of art, of whether art, if you were an artist on a deserted island, would you continue to make art? I think for film, though, is such a mutually shared experience. Even in 2013 with HD TVs, we still come to a theater to see films because there's this collective experience that we all get when watching it that's unspoken, and you're in a dark room with people you never met. But you're everybody is like a presence, kind of experiencing the same thing at the same time.
So the digital revolution may have changed the theater business, but it certainly hasn't destroyed it. That'd be great. Do we have another question? He's ready now. Yeah. Okay, well, who's got the strangest narrative structure up here? Don, I think. It's an avant-garde block film.
Can you? What's your exact question? So you want to know if it's good, or do you want to know? Reframe that question for me. Yeah. I think I've been thinking about it a lot because I'm on this task to watch all 146 films at this festival, and I'm there. I'm going to watch them. I think that people need to write things as, again, like to be truthful to where they are. I think that a couple of people come up to me and said, "Oh, your film is strange, but I like it. What's the and one guy particularly told me, he said, I really think in terms of like putting the narrative right into the dialogue. I have a big background in, I was an actor and I was in theater a lot, and so most of what I worked on for a long time was that what's in the script and what's going on with the actor aren't necessarily the same thing, and that's what I was really have been focused on for 20 years. So it was really natural for me to write something where to be fully understanding where all the characters were emotionally, and to have them be as cryptic as possible with each other. But I would say that I probably spent just as much time, diddling with the script and making it as specific as possible as anyone would in a straight narrative. I think it's easier probably to do a straight narrative if you think that way. But again, I just think it's a question of being true to yourself. Like, there was a really fun movie last night, the one with the car crash over the mountain? Action, which is something I would never write. But like I was thinking, God, these people who want to write things just action, is exactly that. And it's totally cool, and it's completely about movement and about fighting, and it's awesome. And that person must have felt that in order to write that, So that's my long answer.
Hello? We can take one more question, I think. In the back.
What is your minimal requirement to have your film show at a festival? Do you require to be brought out for 10 days and put up in Embassy Suites? Do you require just to have the film show? It's different for a lot of filmmakers, and we just would like to know what kind of things we can look for to bring the films out if we really, really like your films.
Do you mean what are the requirements to get it into a festival?
What do they require that they would let it be shown if it was picked?
Okay. William, you're nodding up and down. You send your film out to festivals where you know you're not going to be going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a student now, getting my master's, living off of, student loans. So you kind of have to, like he said, when you pick and choose the festivals that you even submit to, then when you get into festivals, it's about picking and choosing the ones, going back to the other question, that you think will benefit you the most, from a career and networking standpoint. So, I mean, sometimes they're too far away, or the scheduling doesn't line up, or sometimes like you really honestly feel like you're not going to get a ton out of it aside from a screening. And it's unfortunate, like you want to go to all of the festivals and you want to be there in the back listening to the audience react to everything, but it's unfortunate that you can't be.
What about you, Zoe? Will you submit to a film festival when you know you're not going to be able to travel to it?
Yes, but I think every filmmaker that submits to festivals would love to go, even if there isn't, like I think you mentioned, like benefits that the festival would provide for filmmakers. I mean, the real benefit is seeing your film there and being able to meet people. So usually, at least for me, when I submit to a festival, I at least hope that I will be able to make it, and I will do my best to to clear the schedule. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like you said, I mean, you forget how expensive these submissions are as a filmmaker. Like, I mean, the film is finished, and then it's just like months of expense, and submission fees are so high. And so if you can actually get to the festival after all that, I mean, I feel great right now. I feel awesome.
It's not only is it expensive to submit to the festival and to all the festivals, because you have to pay a submission fee when you submit in most cases, the travel's a killer. And
Yeah,
by
the
the time you're
travel-
done going to one festival that's not, nearby, you could have made a whole nother movie.
Yeah, and like DVDs, promo materials. I mean, it's like submitting to college all over again, except to like 200 colleges.
Right. And if you get into 200 festivals, it's expensive to go to all of them. So great questions. I really appreciate it. I'd like to finish this off here with a thought that I had. I was at another film festival, and I sat down in the audience, and there was a gentleman sitting next to me, a young college gentleman, and he was telling me, about how he wanted to make a film, and he was here to check out all these films at the festival, and I said, well, what do you want to make a film about? And he told me this story, and I said, well, what's stopping you? And he said, well, the writer is doing the revisions, and the camera guy is on board one day, and he's not around the next day, and my actor, she's not sure she wants to do it. And I said to him that you can do one of two things. You can make movies, or you can make excuses. These people made movies. Give them a big hand. It's not easy. Thanks so much for being with us for our panel here at the Boulder Theater. And our next program and final film. Oh, this is killing me. The final block of films is coming.